I'm excited to be here for the Tuesday live show. Today's topic is competing in business. Now, when I talk about competing in business, this doesn't mean that you're competing against other competitors, meaning there's competition in business. Is there competition in business? Sure. It depends on how you look at it. But today I'm actually talking more about competing and having a competitive mindset in terms of how you approach your business and how that relates to entrepreneurship and how it relates to your survival in entrepreneurship long term, because that's what I teach. I help coaches transition to a full-time business. And if you're going to be in this game long term, I've been at it full-time since 2004, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So with that being said, how I got here is part of it has been my competitive mindset, and I want to fill you in a little bit on that today. With that being said, I do record all of my Tuesday live shows. I put them in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. As I said, I help coaches transition to a full-time business. I have tons of great resources for you there in my university. I'd have you start off right on my homepage at sellingcoaching.com, enter your name and email address. Not only will you get an audio resource called Launching Your Coaching Business, the First 3 Vital Steps, but you'll also get into my email community. I put a lot of great information out there on a weekly basis and also keep you up to date on when I'm doing some of my great programs, some of which are like my 5-month GoPro Elite Group Mentor Coaching Program. If you want to check out and learn more about that, if you're watching this live, it'll be in the description. If this is the recording, it should be down below. So you can click that link. It will take you to learn more about that program and when I'm running the next group. With that being said, let's jump into the topic today of competing in business. And a lot of people think that there's competition. And so we can use competing in a lot of different ways. So the first way, and I'm not going to go into, your competition. I don't believe that there's competition. There's a lot of life coaches out there in the world, and there's more and more coming at it. The thing I realized is, or you have to realize as well, is that when it comes to other people, other coaches, the reason why you probably feel like there's so many out there is because the social media circles and other social circles you're in, you're probably surrounded by a lot of other life coaches. So you're seeing them all the time because they're in your network, and you're seeing them post, and you're seeing all the groups that you're in or with other coaches. So you're just immersed in a coaching world. The average person doesn't have or know a bunch of coaches. They probably don't know any coaches. And so therefore, I don't always look at that as being very competitive. Even though it's not the nature of what I'm talking about today, there's, when it comes to competition, there's competition in terms of competing for people's attention, because especially now in the world, it's a very virtual world. And therefore, there's a lot of competing for attention when it comes to social media, getting your message out there, or just reaching out to people in your marketing, getting on the phone with someone, emailing someone, saying, hey, I'd love to make a connection, love to learn more about what you're doing, how I can help you, etc. Set up speaking engagements, any of the marketing activities that we do, connecting with people on social media, direct messaging, right? We're competing for their attention because there's people just doing a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff in front of them. So that's a form of competition, competing for attention. But today I want to focus on having a competitive mindset, because as an entrepreneur, I've found that it's a very fluid business, and entrepreneurship is very fluid. It's dynamic. It's unpredictable. You have to be a lot more in the moment. It's about being decisive. It's about not overthinking things. I said the same thing 2 different ways. So if you're overthinking things, if you're paralyzed by the details, if you're trying to figuring things out, or if you're trying to wait till this or X, Y, and Z is done and lined up before I do this, and I got to do my website before I put myself out there. I've got to get certified or get my certification before I can start to coach. I've got to sell up my business account before someone can pay me. I've got to, you fill in the blank of all these things you think you might need to have. Really, at the end of the day, I just look at it as you're just starting to protect yourself from doing what you want to and need to be doing in your business. You don't need any of that stuff and all the reasons you think you need or what I've got to wait for and things like this in order to do this and to reach out and get my message out there. And I can't, put something on social media until I figured this out yet, or I don't know my niche. And there's all these moving pieces. It's like, no, we've got to start off. Will you want some of those things as you go along? Of course you will. Of course you're going to want a website. Of course you're going to want to, have your brand. Of course you're going to, fill in the blank. At the end of the day, you develop that over time. And entrepreneurship is about speed to market, decision in the market, being adaptable in the market, being fluid in the market, adapting and go, putting out there and adapting, asking for business and figuring out afterwards, signing people up and figuring it out afterwards. It's about having an idea, bringing it to market, figuring things out and working them out along the way, sell it, promote it, and figure out all the details later on. In any of my one-on-one mentor coaching clients that I work with, in my groups, my 5-month GoPro Elite program that I was talking about at the beginning of the show, when I'm doing that with people, even in my 14-day GoPro challenge, it's, hey, listen, we're going to do something. Let's pick a date. Let's pick a title topic. Let's market it. Let's promote it. Let's get it out there. Let's sell it, if we're charging for something, before we even figured out all the content. That's how we do it. It sets deadlines. It sets pressure for us, right? And this is the competitive mindset. This is the mindset that we want to have, is we want to get out there and compete. In other words, I come from a fitness background. I was a health and fitness professional for 15 plus years. I was a competitive athlete. I still consider myself a competitive athlete. It looks a little different now at 44 years old than it did when I was 24 years old. But I still love to compete. I still love to crush other people. I still have to compete with myself, on the golf course now, on, some of the other stuff that I do, even with my son whenever I can, right? But there's that competitive mindset. And as a competitive athlete in training, right, it's like, how do I win? Everything that I do on the field, on the course, on the wherever you're competing as an athlete matters. And it matters on and off the field, on and off the court. And I'm comparing this here, and this is how we want to play in our business. I'm giving you this mindset, right? As an athlete, especially I was a competitive cyclist, mountain and road, right? But I remember when I was doing some of my longer races, my 4-day races and cycling, everything I did mattered. For, 9 months to a year, I was training for some of those bigger races. Through the wintertime on my trainer, because I'm in New England, I can't ride my bike outside in the middle of the winter with snow and ice and sand and stuff, and the temperature as well, right? But it's everything I put in my mouth, it mattered. 100% of the time, not 100% of the time when I'm 9 months out, but when I'm 2-3 months, when I'm in the cycling season, and especially the week of and during the race, like every single thing matters when you're competing. And everything you do, your thoughts matter, your input matters, what you're reading, what you're consuming, what you're eating, right? It's not only the actual food and nutrition you're putting in your mouth, but it's nutrition for the mind. It's what are you being observed? What are you reading about? What's going in your ears? Who are you hearing? What messages are you hearing, right? That affects how you think, which affects how you feel, which affects how you perform, right? Mind-body connection, it's a two-way street. How we think is how we feel. How we feel is how we think. Right? It works both ways. Both influence each other. So we got to watch what we're feeding ourselves mentally into what's coming through our ears and then what's going through our mouth. Right? Everything we do counts. I played golf this morning. I still got my golf shirt on because I came up from playing golf this morning and I'm jumping into work and I'm doing my thing. Right? But every shot, when I'm trying to get better and I'm training and I go by myself, a lot of times like this morning I went. I didn't need anyone to go. I was out there. It was beautiful. And I'm learning how to play the game. I'm learning how to know what clubs I'm hitting because I'm in a league now and I want to compete and I want to do better and I want to crush my opponents, right? Because I'm a competitive person. But right now it's competing with myself and my clubs and staying mentally focused. I get a crappy shot. Okay, how does that go over the rest of the game? Right? So everything I start to do matters. And the second I get lax, the second I start, not caring or giving up, even if it's for a hole or for a couple strokes, it affects my whole game. And that's what I want to show you in your business. And it doesn't mean you play at this level all the time. I'm not saying every time I go out on the course, every time I do that, every shot, every single thing. Sometimes it's not like that. So let's just go play. Let's just go enjoy the weather. Let's just go whatever. And I'm not saying you have to be like that every single day in your business, but I want you to have that competitive mindset. I want you to recognize right now in your business, if you're serious about going full time, and to me, full time isn't just like, it's not this year, it's not this month, or not this month, week or month or year. It's this 5 years. It's this next decade. It's the decades to come. You're going to be in business long term for yourself. You got to create an income that more than pays for itself. So you have more money at the end of the month, versus the other situation. And when you start off, right, hopefully you're not completely relying on your coaching or business income to support everything. But with that being said, we want to get to that spot where we're creating more than enough. So after all of our financial obligations are paid, after we've saved whatever money we want to save for long-term investments, for assets that pay us as well, then we have money left over to play, to do something that we want, to buy something for ourselves, or just to put aside. That's all. And so in order to play at that level and to play long-term, you've got to be competitive in the way you do things. Going back to what I was in my analogy of being an athlete. So everything you do matters. So when you get in your office, if you're goofing off and doing around, and you spend any amount of time, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 hours in your office, have it be productive. It matters. Because if you spend 3 hours in your office and you don't really do anything, and you're surfing on social media and you're just being whatever, well, how does that affect you that day, later that day, the next day? Because you don't feel productive and you didn't get anything accomplished, and so you get frustrated with yourself, right? And so then how does that affect our thoughts? How does it affect how we feel? How does that affect the way we go into the next game, which is the next day, our office hours? So everything we do matters. So if you're working, work. I've learned, let me take this from me. Early on in my entrepreneurship days, when I was coaching in 04, 05, 06, even through, I think, 08 or so, my first 5 years in business, I spent way too much time in my office, and I was doing it full time. And I would go into my office, and some days I'd spend 8, 9 hours in there. And I mean, it's something, they're beautiful days outside and stuff like that. And the majority of that time, I'm not going to say the majority but any time outside of my coaching clients, let's say if out of an 8-hour day, if I had, let's say, 4 clients or 3 clients, some days I had more, but the point is I had 2, 3, 4 hours of other time. A lot of that time I wasn't using productively. I was in my office, and sometimes I don't know why I was in my office. I wasn't necessarily doing anything. And I've evolved to the point now where listen, if I'm not working, if I'm not producing in my business outside of client hours, then I'm not in my office. Or if I'm in my office, right, I'm doing other things, for my real estate stuff, which is business as well, right? Or I'm enjoying myself. I'm looking at something. Like if I'm in my office, it's whatever I'm doing in it. If it's business, it's business. If it's not, it's pleasure, but I'm looking for something online. I'm researching something. We're going on a trip or whatever. Otherwise I'm not in my office. Otherwise I'm going to get outside. I'm going to do something in the house. I'm going to relax. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do nothing. I don't know what I'm going to do, right? But I'm not spending time to spend time here because I have to, or I have to spend a certain amount of hours. Also, I start to recognize that when there are certain days where if I have nothing scheduled, even if I need to do some things, if it's mandatory, I get it done. And it might take me longer to get it done because I'm not quite there, or I'm just tired, or emotionally and mentally, whatever. And so it takes me longer than what it probably should another day. But if it's mandatory, I get it done. But if it's not mandatory and I'm junk or I'm just not there, guess what I do now? As I get out of my office, I do something else. I just relax. I go have fun. I just shift gears. And I don't pretend to work for 3 hours and then get nothing done and then not feel good about it, or, I wish I could have done something else, and the next day have to do the same thing. Right now is I compete and I say, you know what, today my body's not ready to compete. My mind's not ready to compete, so I get out of my office. It's the same thing with training and athletes and things like that, or even just working out if you're healthy and you're exercising on a regular basis. There's sometimes when your body's junk and it's tired. They call it in training and athletics, we call it junk miles or junk training, etc. It's going to the gym, it's going to the whatever the sport you're training for, and going through the motions, but it's not helping your body any. It's junk training. Your body needs a day to recover. So if you take a day to recover and relax, drink plenty of water, feed yourself and fuel yourself, the next day, guess what? You're recovered and you feel better, you feel stronger. So any training that you do is more productive towards your end goal. And the same thing here. If you're competing, and competitive in your business, there are going to be days where you're just not going to be there. And unless there's something that you have to absolutely do, guess what? You take the rest of the day, you take the next couple hours, you take whatever it is off, you recover, you do what you need to do. So whenever you get back into the office, whether it's later that day, that night, or the next day, you're ready to go and you're fired up and you do the work. You do the work and get it done. So I want to start to show you that everything matters in terms of what we feed ourselves, even nutritionally, but also through our ears, what we're hearing, what we're consuming. And then with that being said, and I'm not going to get into this, right? But our health, it's not only our mental health, but it's our physical health as well. That has a huge factor into how we compete as an entrepreneur. And I'm not saying like, oh, you got to go on a diet and you got to release some weight and you got to start a training program, etc. With that also being said, it couldn't hurt. I don't know who you are listening to this, watching this live or the recording, whatever, but at the end of the day, that's a way you can compete. How can you expect to compete if you didn't get a good night's rest, if you didn't eat this morning, or if you ate like crap this morning the next day, if you're X amount of pounds heavier than you need to be? I'm not saying you always need to be in tip-top professional athlete shape to be in business. What I'm saying is it couldn't hurt to get healthier there. So it's all how you show up to the game. It's all how you show up to the field when it's time to play. Right there, and trust me, I'm not this saying I'm this perfect role model. I stay up later than I should. I eat like crap sometimes. I make bad choices in terms of sleeping, eating, things like that, and it affects me the next day. If it's a Sunday night and I stay up late, whatever, have a beer or so, I don't know, whatever it is, it can affect how I perform in the game of my business. I'm not saying you do it all the time. I'm just saying all that stuff matters. I want you to be cognizant of the bigger picture of it and asking yourself, how am I showing up to the game when it's my business hours? And for you, your game time is your business hours. So you're going to know when you're playing your game and when you're not playing the game. And that's your business hours. That's why I wrap up today is when you're in your business hours, you're competing. When it's time to show up, you're playing the game. Everything you do matters. Make it matter. If you show up to the game time in your business hours and you're not playing the way you should, you're not feeling the way you should, I'm not saying make excuses. I'm not saying, oh, well, Jeff said, get out of the office. So every day I'm getting out of the office, or I don't feel like it today, so I'm not playing. It's not my message to you. I'm saying if you're doing the work and you're competing on a daily basis, weekly basis, there are going to be days where you're going to be tired, and where you're not going to be able to show up the way you can. Give it a go, but take an hour off. Take the rest of the day off. I'm not saying, it's 9 a.m. and you take the rest of the whole day off if you're doing this full time. I'm saying take an hour off. Do what you need to do to get your mind right or organize your thoughts so you can do something and be productive for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. It's oftentimes productivity breeds productivity, right? The best time to create a sale or make a sale or market yourself is after you've made a sale, right? So after you've done something, even if you've gotten 5 good minutes of something in, did something productive, great, capitalize on that, do something else. That's how we do something, right? And if something didn't work out, you didn't do well, guess what? I don't focus on the past. My past is not going to dictate my future or my present. My present dictates my future. So forget about what just happened, especially if it was a poor thing. Let me focus now on what I can do in the next 5, 10, 20 minutes to feel productive so I can create a productive thing off of that, right? That's how I play my game of golf, right? I get a great shot. It's easy to play well when you're playing well, right? You can get another shot, but every shot matters. And then I get a crappy shot. All right, whatever. It was my last shot. Something went wrong. What went wrong? Now next time, let's focus. Let's get a next shot. Get back in the game. That's how we play this game in your coaching business. That's competing in business. Forget about your competition. We don't have to worry about that. Focus on your game and what you're doing and showing up and being productive. That's where you're going to get the best results.